But I'm going to do my thoughts really quick since it's what I like to do when I beat games, and because I feel like it's pertinent since the sequel's coming out. Now, I've already talked mostly, or about all my thoughts mostly, but to summarize them in a nice, neat little bow. Long story short, this game is awesome. It's simple, but it's like a perfect sum of all of its parts. It gives you what you need to have fun. Pacing is pretty great. I would say one of the only complaint as far as pacing goes, in my opinion, is that there's some parts of the game where you're just like running through a place. You feel like it should be somewhere where you would fight, but you don't. That's really about it. Otherwise, the pacing's great. Maybe it would have been cooler to have Chaos show up a bit sooner, because they were hands down the coolest enemies, but yeah, it's neither here nor there. At least you get to kill plenty of them. All the guns are freaking awesome. Each one works pretty well in its own right. I'd say the only thing that I ever had an issue with really was like the venting of the plasma weapons. But like the execution's brutal, though it did feel kind of weird doing the same execution with different weapons. But each weapon did have its own executions too, so it's not the worst thing in the world. As far as graphics go, this actually holds up pretty well, all things considered. I mean, this game's like, what, 11? It's more than that. It's like, shit, 12 years old? 13 years old? 23, so like 12 years old, I think. And it still looks really good. And it ran really good on my PC, so that's nice. Granted, it's not the most technical game in the world, but still ran really well. I didn't have like any issues. I hated how easy though it was to get like stuck on like little bits of the map and just like running through, and like you get kind of like the corner was here, but you're like stuck right next to it. I don't really care too much about that, but it was annoying. I really liked the combat overall though. Like the mix of the gunplay and the melee was really cool. It was a little weird getting used to like zooming with the control button, but when you take into account that melee is just as vital as shooting stuff is, then makes sense. And it wasn't like a weird like control setup. It didn't like mess up too much, didn't make it like hard to do. It was just like kind of tricky getting used to it at first. The characters, honestly, overall they're not that memorable, but if you're into the game, they are, if that makes any sense. Like pretty much everybody outside of the Inquisitor and the 3 Marines was pretty unmemorable. I guess Nemiroth could be, but like the 2 Marines that are with Titus the whole time, granted I don't remember the fuck their names are. I think Leandros was one of them. He was the one that like sold me out to the Inquisition. He's a bitch. I hate him. I have problems with him. I don't like him. Sucks that the old head ended up dying. He was cool. He always had my back, and he was like the keeping us cool type character. And Titus is dope. Titus is pretty much the quintessential Marine, very honor bound, duty bound, showed no fear. I like some of the though they're cheesy, I like some of the lines he used. Is like, oh, you're trying to talk to your gods? I'll send you to them. Like, come on, that's bad fucking ass. Let's go. That's dope. But is the story amazing? Not necessarily, but it fits. It's perfect for a Warhammer game. Again, the pacing of it was really good. You kind of just get in there, you have your missions, you're going about it, and you're doing your things. The way the game was structured, there was almost no issues as far as like the pacing goes, like beat by beat. It didn't seem like there's any weird like disconnects, with very few exceptions. I find it funny, like some of the things about the game, if like 40K as a whole, like this was like the smallest chaos invasion I've ever seen. Like there was hardly any chaos. Granted, they were coming through a portal and they were trying to be sneaky about it. It was like the smallest chaos invasion I've ever seen. That being said, good God, did Nemiroth look awesome. Walk, they did such a good job designing his character model. That Speaking of character models, I feel like Titus got gypped because homeboy that was with him, the older guy, had, in my opinion, cool armor. I know it's all to do with like their decoration, or not decorations, their like their accomplishments and achievements and stuff like that, and badges of honor, so to speak. But still, I just saw that the other guy's armor had a bit more to it, and it felt like that should have been the armor that I was rocking. But that's neither here nor there. It's not a big deal. But you know, full disclosure, there's not a lot to talk about this game because it is pretty simple, pretty streamlined. I guess we'll summarize it really quick. As far as the game as a whole goes, well, actually, we'll do that one last. So graphics, for as old of a game as it is, they still hold up really well. I want to give the graphics like a 8 or a 9 out of 10, because though it was simple and it wasn't like the most detailed polygon count, they got the design of everything right. There's fucking skulls on everything, very gothic architecture. Like they nailed the 40k architecture, I would say, pretty damn well. All the bits and bobs on the armor and stuff was good. The orcs, they were designed really well. I liked how like the war boss had like all the metal bits going into him and stuff like that. Like, it's very true to form, very well designed. Like I said, I like the Chaos Nemroth's armor. His stuff was really good, with the graphics included. Like, the detail was really good, especially when he even started turning more into a demon. Just so well done. And again, this game is pretty fucking old, so mixing the character models with the architecture and like the maps, though it was linear, it was still really well done. I thought it was really, like, visually really well done. The mechanics, like the technical aspect of the game, is great. It fucking ran smooth as butter. I would say the only hiccups that I had, like graphics wise, or not performance wise, was probably just getting stuck on little bits of the map and little bits of stuff here and there. But that was more of like a personal like irritation, and then I'm just kind of like fat fingers, couldn't get around corners and stuff like that. So I'll take the blame on that, but it was a little annoying. Otherwise, everything was fine. Like, the level design was pretty simplistic, straightforward. You know, you go down a corridor, you shoot some stuff, you go down another corridor, you shoot some stuff. But that's what I wanted. You know, I wanted to go in there, I just wanted to just beat the shit out of some orcs and some Chaos Marines, tear them apart, make a big bloody mess, and that's what I did, and it was awesome. The story, again, for a Warhammer story, it's not, as a general story, it's not anything like crazy and super memorable, but as a Warhammer story, it fits. You know, everything's there, all the pieces are there, all the stuff makes sense, but there's nothing that really betrays the lore or what I knew of the base property to begin with. I'd say the story is really just there to give you a reason to go on this like gameplay spree. That's really all it is. I'm not gonna remember like anybody besides maybe Titus, the guy who pissed me off, and Nemroth. The lady, she was cool, but she was nothing more than like a plot device, really getting me from point A to point B. And yeah, I wish they would have had more use to do with the Titan. The Titan pretty much just walked 100 yards, shot a cannon, and then turned off. That's really all it did. And yeah, so story, it was decent enough. I'll give that like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. Like, I don't want to harp on it too critically, because they did stay true to Warhammer, so I can't say, like, even though it was on the basic kind of boring side of things, it still was serviceable, still did what it needed to do. I already got you up, Horizon, but I'm about to wrap up my stream anyway, but I appreciate you. Yeah, the Titan, I forgot about him too. That's literally how little impact it made. One thing though, I do want to actually circle back to just really quick with the graphics. I guess you could imply it's a good story one too, is I like the use of the skybox. You know, the story is you're in the orcs are attacking a forge world and all this stuff, and in certain parts of the game you're outside, and if you look up you can actually see ships flying by, it's like stuff going on up there. I really appreciated that, and I felt like a lot of games even today, they don't make good use of the skybox. That's literally area where the player just has no effect, they should be able to do whatever the fuck they want with that. Like in Fortnite, when they had the TIE fighters and stuff fighting or doing like aerial battles and stuff ahead or up above, that was all. That's awesome. And I like that they incorporated that into this game too. That's something that I genuinely appreciate as far as I guess video gaming in general goes, and good visual storytelling. Just adding that level of immersion, making you really feel like you're in this crazy, almost world-ending battle, giving use to the skybox like that really does just add that little sugar on top, if you know what I'm saying. But okay, so story, the graphics, performance, all those together. The last important one, fun factor for me, 10 out of 10. Like, I'd give it 11 out of 10. It was simple as hell. It didn't have too many extra bells and whistles on it that took away from one aspect or another. It was just, here's some guns, here's some ammo, here's some grenades, go fuck shit up. Oh, and here's some like melee weapons. And other than the fucking glaring omission of a power fist, lightning claw, power sword, they pretty much hit the head on all the weapons. I guess a Crozius Arcasium would be really cool, but that's more like person specific. It's not you're gonna have just some random captain pick it up, I don't think. But all that aside, like, it was a lot of fun. The gameplay, like, there's a reason why I fucking put this on and played through it again. Not just because I wanted to refresh myself, but because the game is genuinely fun. It's nothing too crazy. It's not like it's not, changing the game or anything. It's not a mind melter with all these crazy mechanics. It really isn't anything too extravagant, but it is perfect for what it is. And now I'm very, very generous with my reviews on stuff. I almost never hate anything for the most part. If I do hate it, I'm not gonna fucking finish it. But like, with this game, I'm a bit biased, I'll admit. I'm a huge Warhammer fan, so I'm already into it going in. But at the end of it, as a gamer, trying to be as critical as I can, especially keeping in mind that this game is like 12 years old, it's great, honestly. And like, I highly recommend anybody that hasn't played this to take the time and play it. It's not a very long game. You don't need to know shit about the lore to play this. You don't really need to know shit about Warhammer in general to play any game, but this one in particular, it's just jump in, get all the information you need. If you want to learn more about the universe, there's a infinite amount of stuff on YouTube to teach you. I don't want to comment on the multiplayer too much because I didn't get to play it. I did play it way back in the day, like 1 or 2 rounds, and it was fun. It is actually really fun from what I remember, and seemingly everybody that got to play it did enjoy the multiplayer. But since there's no one playing this game, I wasn't able to play it this time around. I did try to jump in like last night and do multiplayer, but there was nobody, no matches were found or anything, so I just did the thing by myself. And like, I like the horde mode and stuff like that. All that's really cool, so I'll give it I'll give it points for having it, but I'm not going to judge the quality of it too much just simply because I didn't get to experience it. Now, Cyber, I know you were talking. I didn't want to like ignore you. I just wanted to try to get all my thoughts out at once so I could, because what I'm going to do is now that I've pretty much got my final thoughts out, well, let me finish it entirely. So all those things together, let's see, we got the gameplay, functionality, like mechanics, performance. We'll give that like a solid 9 out of 10. Story is 8 out of 10. So we got 9, 8 out of 10. The graphics, visually, like everything, I'll give that a fucking 10 out of 10. Honestly, I loved it, and I like their attention to detail with certain things, like the skulls on everything, and some of the character designs were really, really well done. And then the fun factor, again, 10 out of 10. So overall, this game's probably a solid 9 out of 10, just on a gamer standpoint, not even just a Warhammer fanboy. Like, from a gamer standpoint, I would give this game a legit 9 out of 10. It did what it needed to do. I don't need games to be super long. I don't need them to have multiple aspects to them to get a good rating, in my opinion. Like, for me, a good game is a game that accomplishes what it sets out to do. And that's exactly what Space Marine did. gave you the tools you needed to go in there, beat some ass, have a good time. You got a little bit of like a lore dump here and there, and that was that. And that's fucking awesome. That's why for me, I could easily give this game a solid 9 out of 10. Full stop, no problem. Honestly, the bias part of me, for me personally, like my overall rating is 9 out of 10, but like if I was like rating it for like how I feel about the game in like an opinionated standpoint, it's a 10 out of 10 for sure. But if I'm being honest and being a little more critical, analytical, and like less biased, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. That's about it. I know a lot of people are fucking graphics whores and they're like, oh my god, it's not 150,000 frames per second. Oh my god, like 0 out of 10. Get fucked. People with that kind of mentality, you're just never going to enjoy anything. As a matter of fact, whatever you do enjoy is probably also ass. But that's neither here nor there. 9 out of 10 for me, as a overall rating. And if you're a Warhammer fan, if you're somebody who just wants to kind of immerse themselves in more Warhammer lore, I think you're going to find this to be probably one of, if not the best Warhammer video game that's out there. I think Darktide, Vermintide, those ones are pretty close. If not, they might be like a step above this game. Dawn of War is a really good series too. Similar, like it's up there. I haven't played it yet. I'm actually going to very soon. Warhammer Demon Hunters Chaos Gate, that game, that's also up there too. But I'm getting a little sidetracked. So the sum of all of its parts, I'm gonna give Warhammer 40k Space Marine a 9 out of 10. I think it's a great game. I think as a gamer who knows nothing about Warhammer, you'll still enjoy this. Definitely jump in, give it a shot. Play this before playing or Space Marine 2, especially because since this is such a quick play, you'll be able to get a really good like footing for the sequel, and also a good place to like, kind of compare, see how good the sequel is in comparison to its original. But yeah, so that's it for my thoughts.